Welcome back, guys. We have an extremely special guest with us today. He is a multi-time off-roading champion. He won the Baja 1000 twice, the Baja 500 once. He has 8 desert off-road racing championships. He's a viral film producer. He's the father of 2, at least the 2 that he knows about. He's a ballistics practitioner and a defensive tactics practitioner, and he is viral all over YouTube and Instagram. Please welcome Mr. BJ Baldwin. How you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you very much.
BJ, doing research for this interview, I just found so many things just incredibly fascinating. I have so many places that I want to go. Let's start off with this. Like, how is it that somebody, you know, when you see somebody become a professional like F1 driver, I'm always wondering, like, how do you get into that? It seems like so many people's dream. And you, as far as off-roading and desert racing, where do you go? Like, you at 21, you'd already run a championship. Is that correct?
I won my first championship actually at 25.
At 25.
Yeah.
So in your, like, I'm guessing in your teens and early 20s, what gets you into this initially when you're very young?
Well, originally it started as kind of a family thing. I was a privateer till I was 26 or 27. But it was kind of a family activity. You know, it's mostly a family sport, off-road racing is. And then the top level teams obviously have big marketing partnerships with several different companies. But I grew up riding dirt bikes, and I started racing in a buggy that had 86 horsepower, would go, 80 miles an hour. Now I race a truck that makes 1,100 horsepower and will go 151 miles an hour.
So that's the part that you would described in other interviews. You're taking turns. You want to go faster on these turns. The truck is designed to go incredibly fast over these bumps. And you say when people ride with you, they think they're going to break their back every time that you hit a bump, but you guys are going over it because of the suspension in the truck.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I don't really, when I take people for rides, they don't really get scared for very long. They go from having a lot of anxiety to being in this thing that's 7,000 pounds. It doesn't have doors. It's got a bunch of tubes, no windshield. They're in this suit in case they catch fire. They can get out and be okay, which is not fun. But it's a very unique form of motorsport. With any form of motorsport, you have a team of a lot of people that are very, very passionate about it. And they all have a common goal. They're trying to make a vehicle that accelerates well, that slows down very well, and changes direction very well. Whether it's rally car, Indy car, NASCAR, whatever. Our form of motorsports is the only form that doesn't. We focus on that, but our vehicles don't really do that. My truck doesn't accelerate well, stop very well, or turn very well. It's very cumbersome. When you're trying to get it to be nimble, in and out of corners and stuff like that. But one thing it does that no other race vehicle does, it doesn't have to slow down for much. I go through 3 and 4 foot bumps at 120 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And as it relates to people getting in for like a test session to go for a ride or something like that, they're not scared for very long. By the time I'm, 10 seconds in, they go from being scared to terrified to confused, how is this thing able to do this? If any other truck, if it was trying to go over this bump that fast, it would explode.
Right.
So there's a lot of technology in the suspension.
Yeah. Speaking of the suspension, I loved the discussion you had about going on a jump. And so one of the things that I thought was interesting is that a lot of people wouldn't think of this, but if you were to angle the landing perfectly, you should be able to land without destroying the suspension. It's not like the Dukes of Hazzard where they come down nose first and all of a sudden the car, the General Lee is just fine.
It's done.
Yeah, it's just fine. Like in reality, every one of those cars was destroyed, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you talked about this one time you did a jump and you hit that front end so hard that you thought that you were upset at the engineers, but you landed perfectly. Can you talk about, because we have physicists on this podcast sometimes, you can nerd out as much as you want. Can you talk about the physics of something like that? You said you got up to about 59 miles an hour and hit this jump. I
know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This is a viral film that I did in Tacoma called Recoil. So I have a Recoil series, and it's basically modeled after Ken Block's Gymkhana series. Ken was a very good friend of mine for a lot of years. We just lost him here recently, unfortunately. But he inspired me to do these films because, when you film a off-road truck, in the desert, you don't really get to capture, what it's capable of. You're doing an aerial view. The only thing that'll keep up with it is a helicopter. So from 30, 40, 50 feet off the ground, when you're running film and watching it go through these bumps, you could tell it's going through bumps, and they're big bumps, but it doesn't really, transfer how big, the desert is and how rough it is. So I wanted to do something where with my recoil series, I was able to drive over or drive through or jump over stuff that people see every day, like staircases, road crossings that I could fly over, and in that particular stunt that you're talking about, I had 346 feet to get up to an estimated speed of between 68 and 70 miles an hour. And I was, the gap for this jump was huge. And I was going like 35 feet in the air. It was 190 feet across. I believe it was almost breaking the record for biggest indoor jump in a vehicle, in history. And barely any room to accelerate to the desired speed to hit this thing. And you can't see the jump because it's in the Tacoma Dome. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So the sun's like burning down, and all you see is like a black door because of the shade inside the building.
Yeah.
And the first run up, I'll never forget this. My adrenaline is running, just like my blood pressure is up just thinking about the beginning of this, because typically I don't like to do stuff like that that's really, really gnarly. I like the feeling after it's over.
Sure.
Like, man, I did that. Wow. I didn't ever think I was going to come back down to the ground after that. But my son was there, my girlfriend was there, and I remember I had 348 feet. I had to back up all the way to the K-rail and accelerate. It's barely enough distance to get up to that speed. So like my first run, it was just lighting the tires up. I was making clouds, and it wouldn't get up to speed. It didn't leave very well. Second run was like a bunch of wheel hop. And I'm not hitting the jump at this point. I'm just trying to get up to speed and then driving around the jump and resetting. And then the third, I got it right to where I could leave hard and then roll into it and get up to that speed. And I turned around and backed all the way up to the K-rail. And I was more afraid of, because I didn't want to do it. It was gnarly. I was more afraid of my son seeing me not do this than I was of going to the hospital, and getting hurt.
Wow. Okay.
So I was like, I'm not going to let my son, see me wimp out on this. I want him to know, and he's going to grow up and see this stunt that I did, know that I was not comfortable and I was full of fear, but I compartmentalized that. I knew I could probably do it, and I did it anyways, despite how terrified I was of it. So I said, get the drones in the air, get the cameras rolling. We're going to get this party started, and then, we're going to take a break after this. But I hit the front of the ramp with so many G-forces. Like, I thought, because we have stunt coordinators that get the speed and the angle and all that stuff. I was so mad. I was like, they fucked this up. I am going to hit the fucking roof. I'm way going to overshoot this and go through the brick wall on the other side. And, after I was like midway through the arc, I could see, because, when you're up, you look at the video, you're only jumping for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But when you're in the truck, you're up there for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And as soon as I was like midway through the arc, aerodynamic resistance was starting to kick in because I wasn't on the hind legs anymore. It wasn't accelerating anymore. And it slowed the truck down a little bit, and then I greased the landing, and it ended up being perfect. But yeah, I've done a lot of stuff that I've been terrified of,
That's crazy.
In viral films.
I'm just curious. Obviously, you don't weigh nearly as much as the truck. In a motorcycle, you can change your pitch and angle like while you're in the air. You can't do that in a truck at all. Can you?
Most people, I would say most people can't.
Yeah.
I can a little bit because I'm familiar with, like you were saying, the physics and how everything works and whatnot. So I can change, the truck going from one angle.
You
to
can pitch the roll. Okay.
Yeah, I can pitch the roll.
Yeah, change the
Same
roll.
way as like when you're on a bicycle and the tire's moving, if you turn it, it pulls it one way or the other. So I can do that a little bit, and I've used that to my advantage. I won the jump contest in Laughlin, I think like 5 months ago, and the jump was like off angle. Everybody was like landing on the back fender, and it was pulling some fenders off and stuff like that. And I used that technique to hit it as hard as I can and then keep the thing straight in the air.
That's incredible, man.
So
that part is crazy. Now let's talk about this. So you talk about compartmentalizing fear and how you deal with crisis. And we're going to get into the shooting at In-N-Out later, but how you being a truck driver actually probably helped you in those type of situations. Talk about your amygdala, right? The fight or flight part of your brain. Amygdala is the Greek word for almond. There's this almond-shaped thing. There's two of them in the back of your head, and these things are where you get to, like, all of a sudden, if somebody starts shooting, your reaction or people flinch. Those things are not cognitive reactions. That's not your neural cortex. That's your amygdala. And just talk about how you, and I actually had the same conversation with some other people who are heavy risk takers when I was talking to Dan about specifically when he's betting $10 million for, betting against somebody winning, $10 or $20 million in one night playing poker with Sam Majid or somebody like that. In these type of situations, do you think that you've been able to compartmentalize? Like, how has that worked? Is it a function of immersion of just racing so much that you've gotten good at this?
Yeah, like close, friends of mine or people that I've talked to about, like, how did I get so good at driving? I learned from, I had, some ability to control the vehicle quite a bit. And then I learned from others that were better than me, growing up. Larry Ragland was a mentor of mine. His list of accomplishments are long and distinguished. But the reality of the situation is, like, we get one opportunity to hit the corner correctly, perfect, because we don't see that corner again. We get one opportunity to hit that braking zone or that jump or go through that section. So we don't get like a second chance most of the time unless it's loop races. And even the loop races, you only see the corner like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But I always like to tell them to like paint the picture of like how I got as good as I am. I didn't get really, really good at driving. I got really, really good at unfucking myself. When I come into a corner and I'm like 110 miles an hour and I should have hit the brakes, 50 yards ago, 100 yards ago. I have been able to say, okay, you have like adrenal response, right? Oh shit, things are going to go really bad if you don't make the right decision. So I'm able to like, okay, this is fear. Let's delay this for about 10 seconds and see if we can solve this problem. I call it catastrophe management, where you try and process this over here later. And then you could try and solve the problem. I'm not going to make this corner. What is the softest thing that I can hit with the least amount of consequences that doesn't include human tissue? Like if it's a big bush that's 20 feet tall, I'd rather hit that than a rock that weighs 60,000 pounds. Obviously, I don't want to hurt spectators or anything like that.
Sure.
So even though they're really soft, I won't use them to slow down.
But they could help you slow down.
Yeah.
Right? It's just physics, right?
Yeah. But yeah, being a professional at compartmentalizing fear and fixing bad situations, that's helped me be able to take a substantial amount of risk when things are on the line and make sure I'm not upside down or on fire if I make a mistake.
Yeah. Well, so I being an Air Force officer, I know a lot of fighter pilots, and they tend to be some of like the safest or the most risk-averse people that I know, because their job is to take risks, to fly Mach 2 or Mach 3, in whatever jet that they're in, and to pull off these incredible maneuvers. And then you find out in other parts of their life, they lock their door, they carry a firearm, like everything else is like very, very squared away. You mentioned the same thing, like you've become very good at, because you didn't want to crash, which sounds obvious, right? You really didn't like the idea of crashing.
No, it's not
You
fun.
became a better driver at, like you said, unfucking yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm pretty conservative. I leave a lot on the table unless the juice is worth the squeeze. Like if I have to make 30 seconds on the guy behind me to make it into a fuel pit or to win a race, or I'll run at 103, 104% as opposed to staying reasonably conservative. Now, if you're in the truck, it doesn't look conservative. It looks like fucking mayhem. Bouncing off of stuff at 110, 115 miles an hour and backing it into corners and stuff like that. But I'm able to, drive uncomfortably to make that time for a certain period of time and take some risk with that skill set of being able to kind of compartmentalize fear and get kind of nervous later after the mayhem's over. So that's helped me a lot throughout my career.
You mentioned when you won the Baja 1000 twice, you also said you're the only person to finish the race. What does that mean? So people were winning the race without finishing it? How does that work?
Oh no, I'm the only person to drive the entire distance for both those races. You can't win without finishing, but there's been people that have won it before in Ironman. They call it Ironman, where you drive the whole distance. Most teams might have 2 or 3 drivers. And in 2012...
Oh, you didn't have any other drivers. You just did the whole thing by yourself even after... Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So that 2012, I think, was 20 hours. I think 2013 was maybe 15 hours.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's really, really gnarly to do the whole thing. And with the intention of winning.
Yeah.
Most people that are like, oh, I'm an Ironman the Baja 1000 in whatever class... Like that in itself is like a big accomplishment, but it's like fighting 2 guys at the same time. It's a lot of work getting cut out for you. When you have 2 guys that are really, really good drivers, they're people that have won Baja before, and they're savages, and you've been in the car already for 12 hours, and they're fresh. Like their second guy is fresh. Like he hasn't been wearing himself down. He hasn't been in the paint shaker for 12 hours. Going against a fresh guy when you're still a little worn out is definitely a task for sure.
So you're talking about, like, when you say Ironman, you mean like pitching 9 innings. You completed the whole thing. I didn't understand you had multiple drivers. So 1,000 miles, that also would seem like being less risk averse, just not making mistakes for 1,000 miles is how you're going to win this race, rather than trying to superior. You said going 104% or whatever like that. If you could maintain 95% for 1,000 miles, that's how you'd win the race.
Yeah, to a certain extent, but there were several times in both those races that I won, both those Baja 1000s that I won, where I had to run like 102, 104% and take exceptional risk to make certain things happen. Yeah, if you're just running 95% all day, that's not really a formula that would cause you to win the race. If certain things happen and a bunch of people have problems, I've had that before. I won Parker one year by 45 minutes. Yeah. It's a season opener. I won it by 45 minutes. It was really disappointing, because I didn't have anybody to party with. It's like, it's like having sex by yourself. It's not fun.
It's not as fun.
Yeah,
it's not as fun.
It's not as fun.
It's not as fun. I used to run hurdles in high school, and I remember just sometimes everyone would eat it except me, and I wasn't that fast. Everyone would bite it on a hurdle and just go crashing into the ground, and I was the only guy who made it through, and I would win like with some slow ass times. So yeah, I get what you're talking about. And then also, the other thing I want to talk about was you had made a video. A lot of people wouldn't have done this, and I thought it was really classy of you to make a video leaving Monster Energy and then going to Black Rifle Coffee. Can you talk about that whole situation? About how did Monster come to you initially, and then what is it that caused you to change your sponsorship?
Well, I've been friends with the Black Rifle guys for a very long time, since they were running, their coffee company out of a very, very small building, and it was, they were making a couple bucks here and there. They're all SF guys, and I've done a lot of defensive tactics training. I've done rifle classes, pistol classes, and all that stuff. And a lot of the guys that I've learned from are SF guys, special forces guys, Delta guys, all these high-level guys. So I've known a lot of people in that community for several years, and they're really good people. They've been friends of mine for quite some time. Monster is a great company. I'm very grateful for every opportunity that they provided me with, and I'm still friends with all those people. I decided, so I had structured, 3-year option to 4 deal for several years, and I just I got more opportunities with Black Rifle, and I kind of got to do what's best for my team, and it's exciting to be with Black Rifle. And it's an honor and a privilege, because all these guys are vets. They've all, been downrange. They've smashed terrorists, and it's really good to have that relationship with them. And they provided me with, like I said, more opportunities than I was at the time available for me. So I had to do what's best for my team, and it was a really good transition. So it's been a really good relationship with myself and Black Rifle.
And you also mentioned these guys are veterans, special forces guys. When you brought them into the motorsports community, you said that one of the things that makes it unique is that when you bring new sponsors in, everyone's happy. Whereas in other communities, you might see. You remember when the NFL had a deal with Coca-Cola and Jerry Jones started a deal with Pepsi, and then there was a conflict there. But it's very different in your sport, where every time you bring someone in, it helps the sport survive, and so people were welcoming with open arms when Black Rifle came in.
Yeah, 100%. Because my brand and my likeness is appealing to a completely different crowd. And it kind of brings, it's like the saying, like, all ships rise, when the tide rises or whatever. So that's kind of the thing with all my other marketing partnerships is, having another company that's getting involved that help them out with exposure to different audiences as well.
You refer to it as vehicular fistfighting.
Yeah.
Can you
sometimes
explain that?
Like that?
Yeah.
Well, when you have to, like I said, it's different from any other form of motorsports. I've come up behind guys to like pass them. It's single track, so most times you don't have an alternate line that you can drive around somebody. So you gotta let them know that you're there, and a lot of times I'll go up and hit them, regardless of how fast we're going. And sometimes people don't want to pull over, and you got to hit them harder and harder. And there's been a couple times where I've been very upset about that, and I've pushed people off course, or a couple times I've pushed people off ledges and stuff like that. Because it'd be nice to be. I know all these guys; they're great guys, but I'm in a fucking hurry. Get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been like that. Sometimes I finish the race, with some of the body panels missing that are on other people's cars.
Hey, I got your body panel here. Let me bring this back to you.
Yeah, so it's fun.
So in open wheel, obviously, if they touch wheels, that's the cars are going to flip, right? They can't do that. This is why it's very, very difficult. That's why those guys make incredibly big bucks. With your cars, there's a cage around. How is it that you guys are able to bump into each other without impunity? You also mentioned you could back up into something going a certain distance and it wouldn't damage the truck. Is it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of casing do you have that? What can the truck withstand?
It's ridiculously strong. So with any other production vehicle, like you go buy a let's call it an F-150, a Ford truck that you go buy at a Ford dealership. Everything sits on two rails, right? So everything sits on two rails, and the body's mounted to it. Then you have the wheels, tires, the suspension, everything. Well, when you go over bumps, those rails flex to a certain extent, right? So with off-road racing, we have so much travel. Tires are so big. We're hitting stuff that's like 3 or 4 feet, at a very, very high rate of speed. So it's trying to, whether it's a small bump on a production vehicle or, a big bump, you have some chassis flex to a certain extent. And in off-road racing, if we didn't have really strong, ridiculously strong chassis, the front tires and the rear tires would want to touch. It would want to smash the truck in half. So they're really, really strong vehicles. They're made out of 4130 chromoly, 2-inch tubing, all heliarc welded together. And, I could T-bone like a F-350, a big diesel, it's hydroform frame. It's a lot stronger than any other truck on the road. I could T-bone a diesel like 65 miles an hour in my race truck and back up and keep going. Like it wouldn't be an issue at all. That thing would be destroyed. It'd probably be on fire. But because of how strong our vehicles have to be to absorb, all the rough terrain and everything and make the suspension work properly, we have to have chassis that are ridiculously strong, 100 times stronger than a regular truck.
The truck's about 7,000 pounds. Is that what you said before?
My truck's about 7,000 pounds.
Wow, that's incredible, man. I didn't realize all that goes into this. And you said it's about somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million to build one of these things?
Yeah, it's to build a truck, it's about $800,000 to run it. It can be anywhere from $1 to $1.5 million a year, because they come apart after every race.
Of course.
They have to come completely apart. My race truck's only together about 22 or 23 days out of the year because it's constantly, if it's not racing or testing, it's getting prepped. So engine, transmission, power, all the powertrain, drivetrain, all the hubs, shocks, springs, upper and lower control arm, and in the front suspension, rear suspension, all the trailing arms, the wishbone, all that stuff gets pulled apart. All the chassis gets inspected for cracks or any kind of things that might happen in flexing the chassis throughout that particular race. All the plumbing, all the wiring gets checked. So everything has to be perfect because we're, a good way that Mario Andretti described it is the Baja 1000. It's like a 24-hour plane crash because these things go through so much abuse.
Yeah.
If I wanted to, like when I'm racing, if I wanted to break my truck, I could break it in like 10 minutes just by, being ornery, or very angry over something. So it is, driving it is more of like an operational thing. You have to be gentle to a certain extent. Now, when you're sitting next to me, it probably wouldn't look gentle. But if I really, was having a rough day and I was trying to make time, I could easily break my truck if I wasn't careful.
You said there's a thin line between driving fast and being upside down and on fire.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very thin line. When you're trying to be competitive, when you're trying to win, because you're going against the best off-road drivers in the world. There's no bums in my sport. They're all savages. Bryce Menzies, Robbie Gordon, Luke McMillan, Andy McMillan. All those guys are really, really first-class drivers, and they have a team of 100 guys that go down to Baja, and they all want to win championships. They all want to win more races. So it's good to compete against the best guys in the world, and it's definitely an honor or privilege to be one of them.
UNLV did a study where they showed men playing poker, and then they showed men playing poker with beautiful women near them, and then they measured their testosterone serum levels and showed that they actually went up. There's some endocrinologists that measured this. They also did the same thing with sports cars and showed that men's testosterone levels went up. And I would imagine it's probably similar for you guys in your sport, where it gets to the point where you're not producing cortisol anymore, but your body's producing more testosterone in order to handle the stress. I'd be very interested to see if somebody would take the testosterone levels before and after some of your races to see what happened.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I find like I make the best decisions, I'm the safest, and I'm the fastest when I'm really, really relaxed. So, like in the truck, I'll probably have resting heart rate, same as it is right now, where a lot of other drivers, if there's a lot of stuff going on, they'll be very, very excited, and they'll consume a lot of their energy. With me, being an endurance athlete and driving, all of the races and the entire distance instead of having, I've had two drivers before at the 1,000, but a lot of years I've been the only driver. And I've almost won it several times, Ironmanning it, being the only driver. But I get that ability to do that from being able to stay calm and manage my anxiety and manage my emotions despite of what the day provides for me to deal with. So that's helped a lot.
To do a race 1,000 miles, do you take anything? Do you just drink and coffee? Do you have like a cat? Like you have something that's feeding you while you're in there, or you just don't take anything?
I have a gallon of water, mixed with fentanyl.
I don't know. I think that might have the opposite effect. You know what I'm saying?
No, no. I have a very detailed preparation plan as it relates to fitness and hydration, and I have hydration in the car. I have cold air that comes through my helmet and air ventilation system, because when you're passing another vehicle, it's explosive dust coming off the back of these trucks that make 1,000 horsepower. So you got to stay hydrated. You got to have clean air, and during the 1,000, I'll have like a meal plan for about 9 hours. If it's a long race, I'll have a meal plan for about 9 hours. I'll hydrate every 45 minutes, whether I'm thirsty or not, a certain volume of water. Then
you're going through like a straw? Do you have like a contraption to do it, or are you stopped, or like how does it work?
So I have I have an intercom in my truck to where I could talk to my navigator, just like we're talking right now.
Yeah.
Obviously with a little bit of motor noise, but it's pretty insulated in the helmets. And then over my microphone, I'll have like this little rubber thing. So it protects the microphone from the water that will come out of this little nozzle. So you hit a button on the steering wheel and it hydrates. You just open your mouth and it shoots water in your mouth.
Wow, that's awesome. Does your navigator have like drone shots of you, or is they just using GPS? How does the navigator know?
Drones won't keep up. Helicopters won't keep up most of the time. We'll typically pre-run. So pre-running is when you drive around the course before the race, and you'll take notes in certain areas. We have a GPS and a pre-runner. The best way to explain what a pre-runner is it's like a regular truck with a race truck wrapped around it. So we have doors that open and close, windows that go up and down. We have a front windshield. We have air conditioning in it. It's typically 3 seats instead of 2. And it's got a small motor that'll run on, 88 octane Mexican gas that you can get at any village or whatever.
Yeah.
So instead of making, 1,100 horsepower, we make about 600. The truck's a little bit heavier because it's got a factory like cab built around it. And we'll go over there and we'll go through the course. We'll mark all the sharp corners, all the trees that are on the outside of corners, the rocks, certain jumps, certain big ditches that we need to know about. And he'll call like I don't know if you ever seen like an interior shots of rally racing. It's kind of like a hybrid version of those type of notes, and that helps a lot.
Okay, got it. So that's how your navigator finds out all the injuries.
Yeah, 100%.
The strength and conditioning you do. So beforehand, is there anything you do specifically in order to be able to do that? Like I would imagine this would be a toll in your lower back, taking on all these bumps. What are some of the kind of stuff you do?
Actually, it's not that rough. I mean, it seems like it would be really, really rough on your back, but it's not that rough. Over the years, I've been a jiu-jitsu practitioner for, I think it's 18 or 20 years. That's helped a lot, especially when you train with fighters, because you're like, these guys are here for a reason, and I'm just, the guy in here trying to, get exercise and learn some stuff, and they're trying to pull you apart. So it's different than like, somebody that's recreationally training against another person that's recreational training.
Yeah.
And in the past, I've trained with a lot of fighters for 10 years. That helps a lot because there's no like intimidation. Like when you have one of the best drivers in the world trying to like hunt you down from behind. Like on Tuesday, this guy was trying to pull my arms off. Like why would I have any kind of anxiety as it relates to that? So it helps as it relates to, vehicular fist fighting, vehicular combat, whatever you want to call it. The anxiety level goes down. And then I do like lately I've been doing a lot of stuff that's like mental exercise, like getting in cold water that's 35 degrees every day. I'll get in the sauna, it's 190 degrees, 3 times a week, but I get in cold water every single day. And that doesn't ever get easy. It always sucks. But, having the tenacity to know, like, I'm going to do this because it's going to make me mentally stronger. It's going to help, help me physically, help, tone down inflammation and stuff like that. That definitely helps. And it translates over to when you're in the race truck.
Wow. Awesome. Yeah. I remember the first time I was in an airplane that was on fire. We were like about 45 minutes into Iraq, and one of the computers just catches on fire. And I'm first lieutenant. I'm freaking out. And there was a bunch of other crews sleeping in the back because we were shipping 3 crews over to the desert. And while we're there, he just gets up, climbs down in the hellhole. He goes, "Yeah, the plane's on fire." And he grabs a extinguisher, puts it out, goes back to sleep. And I'm like losing my mind, man. I'm like, I got an oxygen mask on. I'm cussing at the pilot. I'm a navigator. And by the fourth airplane I was in that was on fire, it didn't really bother me. But I remember coming home and dealing with I can't remember, some stressful situation. I think we got somebody got in a car accident or something like that. And they were like, how are you able to deal with that so well? I was like, I've been in a couple burning airplanes. Like, this is not really that big of a deal. And I just remember thinking the same kind of thing. It's like, there's a compartmentalization that happens where it's like, this has to happen or else, this is a problem solving time and later is emotional time. And some people can't they conflate the two things.
Yeah, 100%. Being around certain gnarly situations definitely helps you get used to like being able to control your nerves. One of the times I was pre-running, there was a dead body in the center of the course. The guy got pieced apart by a shotgun, and police were there, and we're like,
because you're Mexico.
Yeah, because we're in Mexico.
Got it.
So it wasn't. Tori was actually doing my notes. Tori, my girlfriend, she was doing my notes at the time, and it bothered her quite a bit, but because I've been around stuff like that throughout my life, it's a lot easier to deal with. I've been on fire like 4 or 5 times, and certain fires I've really been on fire like probably 10 times, but the other 5 times have been like electrical fires. It's not a big deal. But when you get a shock that comes apart when you're going through the bumps and it hits the headers and all of a sudden everything's orange, or fuel spill in a pit and you're engulfed in flames. That's a different story. That's really, really gnarly.
What do you have? What's the scenario there? It's just run. Like what do you do in the like? So when we had an engine fire in flight, every pilot has to memorize. I bet you there's a bunch of them watching right now. Every pilot memorizes. You got to cut the fuel line. There's a set of emergency instructions every pilot has to know whenever there's an engine fuel fire. An engine fuel fire. What is it that you guys do when there's a fire with the truck? Is it just get the fuck out or grab the extinguisher, or how does it work?
Yeah, we try not to panic first, but when all you see is orange, it's basically, get out of the car as fast as you can. You can replace the car, you can't replace
sure
if you're all burned up. One situation in particular, I think I was third. I worked my way up. It was a lot of years ago. I was in class 1. I was in a buggy, and I was in. This is a really good story. I was in third place, and it was before I was like a professional team. My dad was actually going to ride with me and navigate for me in the last half of the race. And, we were doing really, really good. We had fuel dump cans instead of the pressurized system that we use today, so it takes a minute. And when they put I pulled in the pit, they put the dump cans up like this, and the overflow spilled like a gallon of fuel into my fresh air pump. And the fresh air pump is an electric motor pump that has a filter, and it goes through rubber hosing or plastic hosing that goes into my helmet. And the fire started there. So that was really bad, for me to breathe all that stuff in and try and make all these critical decisions in just a few seconds. They both panicked, because it was just like, they pulled the fuel tanks out, and then like another 9 gallons went into the engine compartment, because it was a mid-engine buggy at the time. But then like the whole car was just orange. I have some pictures of it that don't do it justice, but it was a big fire. My dad actually ran over, and I remember not being like afraid. I was just like bummed. I was like, great. Like my dad, helped start this team, made my dreams come true.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to fucking burn alive in front of this motherfucker. For the rest of his life, he's going to be like, fuck, why did I get him involved in that shit? I should have got him involved in badminton or something, some sport that's a lot safer. I remember being bummed out about that. But yeah, I'm getting all my stuff undone. I'm unplugging my intercom, my Parker pumper, my whole helmet just filled up with like ash and smoke. Yeah. So instantaneously, flames are coming around me. I'm getting high as fuck, because of all the fumes and whatnot. And I get my window net down, and then everything, I'm sure you've been choked unconscious before, like everything goes like gray, you lose color, like this, and it goes like that. And so I got situated like this, and my dad, he didn't even have gloves on. He just reached his hands underneath my armpits. I was like a big dude at the time. I'm like 205 right now. I was 270 at the time. I was really chubby. And he pulled me out, and I woke up, and a fuel tank was on fire like, 4 feet away from us. And he was all, wasted from trying to get me out of this car that doesn't have doors. He has to pull me through the window, 270 pounds. And he wasn't like a gnarly athlete at the time. And he saved my life, which was cool. And then I had to pick him up once I got a little bit of air in my helmet, pick him up and drag him away from the fire. But I've had a couple things like that happen. That was the worst one. So I had a shock come apart, and people that are watching this are going to think of like shocks, like a shock that's this long on their car, that's like this big around. My shocks are this big around. They carry like, I don't know, a couple gallons of oil. That's pretty highly combustible when it's sprayed over exhaust manifold. And I had 2 fires in one day where the shock absorber on the left, on the driver's side of the truck, came apart and sprayed all over the headers while I was going like 65. So I got flames going through the ventilation ducts in the hood into my face and oil everywhere. And we had to cycle all that oil out and drive to the pit, change the shock. That shock ended up being faulty too, and I had to fire in the same exact area 114 miles later. It was kind of crazy.
So you were able to finish so sometimes you have a fire and then you just keep driving.
Well, yeah, after I got all the oil, I wasn't going to drive when the thing was on fire. It was already hot outside.
Yeah. That's funny. We have the same with the airplane. Sometimes things wouldn't work, right? One time we had a vertical stabilizer would not pull up when we landed. We had to pull the whole thing up. The major who was in the pilot seat, he pulled it all the way to the back. We go back to the maintenance squadron. It was funny enough in Tacoma as well. It was at McCord Air Force Base, and the maintenance came back and says we could not replicate. And I'm like, well, we're not replicating that flight either. We're not flying that airplane again until you fix whatever's wrong with that thing. It's like, you better figure out what happened. Because it was funny. He had to pull the seat back, and he pulled the yoke all the way back to his chest to rotate the nose up so we could land. Because you don't want to land a KC-135 on all three wheels at the front.
Hell no.
Yeah, that would be a very, you could do it, but you could only do it once.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this, man. So your father pulled you out. Your father's Bobby Baldwin, and I didn't even piece that together until today. For those of you who don't know, Bobby Baldwin won the 1978 World Series of Poker championship. He was the president of City Center, which is, Aria and all those places right there.
Yeah, he built half of Las Vegas.
He absolutely did. He also, Bobby's room in the high stakes room in the Bellagio is named after Bobby Baldwin. He also has there's the Bobby's Burger. There's a bunch of stuff that's named after Bobby Baldwin. And he was good friends with Steve Wynn. There's a bunch of stories. The one I actually want to ask you about, though, is the fact that Steve Wynn's daughter was kidnapped. Bobby Baldwin was actually the guy driving Steve Wynn around. Do you know anything about that story? Has he ever talked about that?
For delivering the ransom, yeah.
The ransom money.
I'll never forget. We were, I was just a kid. We were on the couch watching Unsolved Mysteries, and he got the call, and he's like, I got to go. And I'll explain it later. It was like 9 o'clock at night or something like that. And he went out and he came back. I think he came back at like 1 in the morning. And he told me the story that, she got kidnapped. And they, if I remember correctly, they locked her in like some kind of closet or something like that at the airport. So they dropped off the money. They told him where she was. And they got the FBI involved. My dad knew the director of the FBI at the time. So they delivered the money, and then they went and got her. And like the next day, the guy bought Testarossa in Long Beach. Yeah. So it wasn't too long.
They caught him pretty quickly.
Busted.
Yeah. I remember hearing the story and Steve Wynn talking about going up to the cash register and being like, do you know who I am? And he goes, yes. He goes, I need this amount of money like immediately. And the guy just gave it to him. And just thinking about being that cashier, just being like, Steve Wynn literally walks up to you and says, I forgot how much money it was, but that whole story was just like in super, super high intensity. What are some of the other things you remember about growing up with, Bobby as your dad? I only know Bobby from when I used to go to Hayes, and he was there all the time. I used to see him, hanging out all the time. But like being the president of City Center and all the other things, you said he built half the city.
Yeah, he's before he was involved in building half of Las Vegas with all these different properties that went up around. He opened Mirage, was the first mega resort in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and then Treasure Island, built Bellagio, built City Center, then partnered with MGM, and then built some properties after that. He had a much more exciting life that doesn't really get talked about.
It doesn't.
There
is no definitive biography on Steve Wynn. I can't find it anywhere. I've been looking forever for someone to write something about that. The other thing that's really interesting, the guy who robbed 6 casinos back in like 99, 2000. Are you aware of this?
On a motorcycle, right?
Yeah, well, he did some of them on a motorcycle. He was a former Cuban resident. He fought in Afghanistan for Russia. Against the Afghans, and then he was I can't remember how, but I believe in '83 he comes over on the boat, the flotilla from Cuba to Miami, and he ends up getting arrested for selling crack cocaine, moves to Las Vegas, and he ends up hitting 6 casinos. This guy shoots out the police tires on one of the cars outside of his car with a pistol. Incredible book about it. I never hear anything about it. They end up catching him because he wears a Florida State hat while he's casing the Bellagio one time, and then they found the hat on his person, and that's how they ended up convicting him. They end up killing one Brinks driver, I think, in one of the hits or whatever. I don't know if you've ever heard these stories. These are fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things where a lot of people don't understand. There's a point where Las Vegas goes from mafia money to corporate money, and there's a separation there where the city is growing very fast and the police department can't keep up. And at this point, that's when this guy decides, I'm going to start robbing these casinos. And he hits, I think, 2 Brinks trucks and 4 casinos successfully. He only gets away with I can't remember how much money it was, but then they finally catch him. He's in Creech right now. It was funny because OJ Simpson just did an interview where he talked about being up there, and that guy who did the 6 bank robberies, he's there, or the casino robberies, he was there in he was there with him in state prison. It was really interesting. And he was like, these are the two guys. He was like the biggest celebrity there. And then OJ Simpson got there. It was a really, really interesting, fascinating story. But anyway, with your dad, he wins the 78 World Series of Poker. Is he into construction or casino building there? Or does that give him the connections to where he eventually becomes this mogul here in Las Vegas?
Well, this is kind of what happened. It's not talked about much, but and I haven't seen much on it, but Steve and him were friends when he was a professional poker player. And from what I understand, Steve was like, I want you to come work for me. You'll get X job, make $100,000 a year, which was, pretty good money at the time. And my dad laughed at him like, I'm a professional poker player. I make $350,000 a year. Why am I going to come work for you? And, as the years went on, a couple years went on, there was so much mayhem involved in being that person. He was always trying to get robbed. I got like a bunch of kidnap letters, that people said that they were going to kidnap me if he didn't give them $50,000.
So people were consistently threatening your father about kidnapping you when he was a professional poker player.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We got a bunch of, you see the letters in the movies with the, the magazine letters cut out.
Each one cut out on the,
Yeah. So it was kind of like that. And he was like, you know what, I don't want to do this fast paced stuff. I'll still do the World Series every year. But I'm going to start working for the Gold Nugget. And Steve purchased the Gold Nugget, before that, I think a year before that. And then my dad started working for him. He's really good at like, to describe it, like you get like a ball of Christmas lights that are all fucked up and tangled and in knots and stuff like that. As it relates to business-related problems that resemble that kind of problem, he's really, really good at creatively solving problems, and that's where he's been the most successful in his career as an operator, as a partner in MGM Mirage and Mirage.
Untangling other people's issues.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. You also mentioned growing up, your childhood was very different. In one of the interviews you talked about where you had gotten jumped before when you were a kid, and maybe that had some effect on why you became so proficient with firearms and other stuff.
Yeah, I grew up really, really soft. I was kind of a mommy's boy at the time. In my teenage years, my early teenage years, and I got in a situation where I got like 10 guys, beat me up in a parking lot, and I got bullied. I got punched, a bunch of times, like random people would try and start stuff because I was like the soft guy. And after I got beat up by like 10 guys, I was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. Everybody that, plays football and all these tough guys that are always going to parties and always getting in trouble all the time, they love me, but I never hang out with them.
Yeah.
And I seen like a handful of these guys that I'm friends with, like just wipe people out. A couple of them were, Gold Gloves boxers when they were kids. And I was like, I just don't want to be that person anymore. So I started hanging out with this crew, and I started trying to be, somebody that can take care of themselves, if a situation like that arises at the time. And I got in a bunch of fights. I lost a bunch of fights in the beginning, and then I started doing okay, And we were like getting in fights like every single week, and there'd be like some group fight at some party. A bunch of ornery guys that I was hanging out with, first class guys. I still talk to them to this day. They're really, really awesome people. But and then I started learning how to box. And funny enough, Dana White was my
I was going to bring
coach.
that up. Dana White, whose office is right here next door.
Yeah.
Dana White was your boxing coach.
Yeah, and I didn't have any like amateur fights and stuff like that, but I would train in boxing. I would spar with Dana from time to time, which was never any fun because you can't hurt that motherfucker.
Yeah.
You
mentioned you hit him as hard as you could one time. It hurt your shoulder and your elbow, and he was like, good punch, and then just kept going.
Yeah.
You see the guy's traps. I mean, he's in his 50s right now, right? 60s, and his traps are still gigantic, man. It's the guy, I thought he had a neck fusion. No, he's just like hard to hit.
Yeah, nobody knows this. That motherfucker has hands, and you cannot hurt him. You cannot make his nose bleed if you hit him with a 10-pound iron weight.
Yeah.
So excuse me. I would I would spar with him from time to time, spar with some other people. I was funny when I was at the Gordon Biersch building, which was, you know, where UFC was birthed when they took ownership of it. I was either sparring with somebody that, you know, was, you know, new to it, that had been training for like 6 months, or I would spar with like somebody that was like an undefeated heavyweight or an undefeated welterweight, and they'd have to work with me so I didn't, you know, get vaporized in there with them. So, yeah, that was fun. Sparring with Dana was always a good time. I remember this particular day, he was having a rough day. Because, like, second round, you know, he's like, motherfucker, I know you fucking love me. Stop fucking around. Try and fucking kill me. I was like, really? Are you sure? You know, because when you spar, you're like, you're not trying to knock somebody the fuck out. You know, not trying to create a situation where you just sleep your training partner. And I was like, all right, you know, and he was hard to deal with to begin with. So second round rolls around and I'm really trying to like get him. And I had like a situation where I was backing up and I had like spring reflex and he was moving in at the time. And I had a really good right hand. I just turned my hand over in his face as hard as I could. And he like just went like this. He's like, that's what I'm talking about. And then jab, hook, and then hook to the body, and he just knocked my soul out of me, you know, right in my liver.
You were ready to apologize. You hit him so hard. He was like, yeah, that was good. And then he knocked you. That's incredible,
so,
man.
Yeah, that was the beginning of my journey. Excuse me. But then I was kind of like, me and my friends, like later on, like in my early 20s, I was the guy that was like the guardian for like, if some girl got, you know, their ass pinched by some drunk stranger or whatever, I would always like sort that out. And I had a situation where I had a rough night, my buddy and I having a rough night or whatever. And these guys that were pulling up were like staring at us like they wanted trouble. And we were like, what the fuck? And they're like, get out of the truck. I was like, are you want to get some exercise? You know, to my buddy, Jason Ayers. And he's like, yeah, let's fucking wipe these guys out. You know, we were having a good time. We got out of the truck and he was dealing with like one of the smaller guys, and I got the guy that was about my size, and I was tuning him up. And then somebody else comes out of the back of the truck. Yeah. We didn't know there was three. We thought it was 2-on-2. It was a fair fight. You know, we were going to bust each other up and shake hands and buy each other a beer later or whatever. You know how it goes at the time. And third guy comes out. My buddy Jason is like wiping this guy out. Tough guys, pretty tough guys.
Yeah.
And I had this guy, you know, after grabbing his jacket and kneeing him and hooking him and just tuning him up, he's almost, you know, getting ready to crumble. And his buddy comes out and he's like he's not a tall guy, but he's like yoked, like stat guy. And I start having to fight both these guys at the same time. And I was just like, I'm going to try and finish this problem and then address this problem.
Sure.
Right. So I was just tucking my chin and, you know, protecting myself as much as I could while he's trying to light me up. And it wasn't having any effect on target. So he got smart and he went around behind me.
Yes.
And he jumped on my back and choked me, you know, within an inch of my life. And I got soccer kicked in the face and kicked in the ribs by the guy I was, you know, about to end his damn life. And they were like, are you done? Tell your friend to quit. I was like, all right. You guys win, whatever. Yeah. And I get up and Jason's like still fucking with this guy around the back of the truck. And I'm looking and this guy's like red. You know, he's got this big cut on his, you know, because Jason's got like these big gnarly knuckles that cut people. I've seen it, you know, quite a few times. And he's like, no, keep going. We got these guys. Like, I'm like, no, dude, let's get out of here. I'm all wiped out. And he's like, all right. So I go to Dana's office like that Monday. I think it was a year after he had partnered with, you know, or owned UFC with the Fertitta brothers.
Fertittas, yeah.
And I knew that he was training in jiu-jitsu for a little while. So I go up to him and I'm like, how do I solve this problem? I was almost going to go home and feel like super tough and accomplished because I beat up two guys at the same time. And one of them jumped on my back and choked me. And he's like, okay, how long were you choked for? I was like, I don't know, like 30 seconds or something. It was terrible. And he's like, he didn't really choke you. I was like, what are you talking about? You weren't there. Like, you know, that was gnarly.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, get on your knees. I'm going to choke you for 1 second. And he gets behind me.
Yeah.
And he does an RNC on me and he chokes me for 1 second. I cough for like like a minute.
Yeah, if you've ever had, I've had some Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructors like from Brazil do this. Rudy Vasquez back in Austin, Texas was my instructor. And man, I mean, you're out so fast. Like you do realize like these guys understand the proficiency of of both carotid arteries. They're using both of these bones to get each artery, and you're just out. The only thing I can equate it to is like G-lock when you're pulling a lot of G's and all of a sudden things start to black out.
Yeah, it goes like that.
Yeah, it's the same kind of situation.
Funny, I choked a girl out last night that I'm teaching jiu-jitsu to.
Yeah.
Her name's Jasmine. She's training with my son, but I was in jiu-jitsu last night, and I was like, we were working after class, and I was like, you want to see what it feels like? And she says, yeah, I have a pretty funny video. I'll show you after this. But I put her out. But anyways, Dana choked me, and I was like, fuck, you got to teach me that. Like,
yeah.
And, within like a couple weeks, my buddy Jason and I started training jiu-jitsu over at the UFC gym, where it was just him and RC and like the Fertitta brothers. They had private like jiu-jitsu classes, but I would train with Dana like all the time, and he would wipe me out. And then he was teaching me some stuff, and then Mark Lehman, who was training with all the guys from Tough Enough, the Ultimate Fighter show, he moved to town and opened his own school called Cobra Kai Jiu-Jitsu. And Mark's like, dude, you got to go here and start training here. And within like 3 months, you'll be able to kill me. This guy is so good. So I was like, well, that sounds pretty good because you're annihilating me right now.
Yeah. So
I went and trained with, I was actually the first student. Jason and I were the first 2 students at Cobra Kai Jiu-Jitsu. And there was, at the time, this is December of 2003, there were no accountants there. There was no dentists there. There was no people that worked valet at, X hotel. It was all people that wanted to learn how to hurt other people, wanted to be fighters, wanted to be professional fighters. So I walked into Lion's Den, and obviously I had to learn really quickly, and I would still have my sessions with Dana. One of the times, like the first time I beat him, he's like, see, I fucking told you so, like you're learning all this shit. And I felt really good about it. And then we started training, for 4 or 5 months after that. And then in one of the sessions, I tore his knee. Not on purpose, but as we were moving around, he tore the meniscus and he was limping around for a little bit. And he's like, I think I'm done with this shit. Like, I was like, no, come on. He's like, okay, come spar with me.
Yeah.
And I know what that's about. I've been to that party before. It fucking sucks, especially if he's had a rough day. And I was like, all right, when you're ready, we can get back to it. So I took some time off of boxing and did jiu-jitsu for 15 years really seriously.
Yeah.
I ended up getting my purple belt and competing and stuff like that. But it was a fun journey when you were in there at that time, because you don't have that now, where now it's like regular people in there. At that time, from 2003 to like 2012, it was all fucking murderers. It was all murderers. It was awesome.
You also mentioned something. You and I are around the same age. The idea, I used to be a bouncer in Austin, Texas on 6th Street, and every night was a fight, especially in the spring when dudes were like cycling up, taking steroids, which is a pretty big thing in Texas, right? High school football and
those
college
were
football.
my favorite types that came into the gym.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
They're
Yeah. So there were brawls every night. And remember, it's not just me. We're on 6th Street in Austin. I'm at Amazon Shop Bar. So there's the bouncers here, the bouncers across the street. And then there's this mass of people. And these huge fights would break out. And then you would get into it as pushing and shoving, punching and all this kind of stuff. And then the part you brought up, the next day, the same guys would come by and come get their credit card. And like give a high five to the bartender who jumped off the goddamn bar to do some Randy Savage elbow on him. And everyone was just fine with it.
Yeah.
And no one even considered pressing charges. The idea, and the cops wouldn't even consider this idea. Now, if you did something really bad, you damaged the property, they would take you to jail.
Yeah.
Or if it was some severe public drunkenness, they don't have a choice. They can't just leave you out there drunk.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like there would be a fight and then everything would be fine the next day. And I remember thinking, this is crazy. Today, dude, it's not like that. I've been living in Vegas for 11 years. I have not seen a fight in forever. I go back to Texas partially because I'm waiting on it's about 2:15. Here we go. And something would break off. There was this one club called Mantis in Dallas. It was, you could set your clock to it. About 1:59, some dude's going to shove another dude because of his girl, and we're going to have a fucking brawl in here.
Yeah.
And like, hopefully I don't break my phone, but let's get into it. It was a mosh pit. And then in Vegas, I've been here for 11 years, and like I couldn't get in a fight to save my life. Like nothing ever happens here, you know? And so it's just one of these situations where things have changed so much, where if I shove the wrong guy, they're gonna sue me. They're gonna take me to civil court, and I'm like, this is a very, very different time.
Well, I think it's, you know, people are under a different understanding of, you know, the public in Las Vegas now.
Yes.
Like back then, if you knew jiu-jitsu, you were like, you could tear people apart like a sheet of paper.
Of course, you didn't have any competition. People were still taking Taekwondo back then, and they just didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't. Well, a buddy of mine, it's funny, when I started training at Mark's, David Balea and Mark were the only two people there because it was the first day he opened.
Yeah.
And I rolled with Mark, who's world champion. I rolled with David Balea. And I'm all worn out. I'm like, this is the most fascinating shit I've ever fucking done. And it works, obviously, because you could just tie me in a knot with my, you know, clothes on. And I said, who wins out of both of you?
Yeah.
And Balea starts laughing his ass off, and Mark's like smiling. Mark's the world champion.
Yeah.
David goes, dude, I'm a fucking white belt.
Yeah.
I've only been training for 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I could do that in 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, because he annihilated me. So now I think, as it relates to people getting in scuffles in Vegas, I think everybody's under the understanding that this is the fight capital, and everybody here, a lot of people here, know how to hurt other people.
Yeah.
You know, so they don't fuck around.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. So now let's transition. High proficiency training with a pistol. We've talked about you racing, and then also this situation. You get into firearms. At what age do you start doing that?
I was 6 years old. It was you know, a recreational thing that I did with my father. Every Sunday we would go out shooting. I had a bolt action 22, and occasionally he'd let me shoot his, you know, 357 Magnum loaded with 38 Special or his 380. And then as I got older, I was able to operate larger caliber firearms. I've done one competitive shooting event. I was 12 years old, and there was like 350. I think there was 50 youths. I competed in youths, which was supposed to be 14 to 18, but they lowered the age so I can compete. It was at American Shooters with Ron Montoya. I'm sure you met Ron Montoya. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Ron has a lot of guns.
He has got a few guns.
Yeah.
He sure does. He owned American Shooters at the time, but I was 12 years old. I ended up smoking all the youths in basic accuracy at, you know, 7, 15, 25, and 50 yards with a handgun. I was, and I ended up getting third overall on all these former law enforcement and military guys. And with a handgun that looked like I got it out of Lake Mead. It was a 357 Magnum Dan Wesson, you know, that I'd run 38 special wad cutters out of it. But then I got my concealed carry license when I was 21. And I carried from time to time. Then I had an event when my son was 1 year old. I was taking him to lunch, and I was in this truck. It was actually my dad's truck. He had an F-150 with a supercharger on it, and I had borrowed it to take him to lunch. Well, I had like a group of guys come up beside me and say, you know, fucking roll your window down. I'm gonna fucking pull over. I'm gonna fucking kill you and all this shit. And I'm like, you know, looking in the mirror, you know, when I was younger, I probably would have figured something out if I had a buddy with me, you know, but at the time I had my son with me. I'm not really into fighting 4 or 5 guys, no matter how tough you are at the time. That's a very difficult problem to solve. So I'm like, okay, this guy's yelling. He's obviously upset about something. Good news is I happen to be BJ Baldwin.
Yeah.
So I
pretty good driver.
I'm a pretty good driver. I fucking drive away from anybody. I can,
For sure.
You know, I can outrun that, you know, SUV on a fucking tricycle. So I look down, and this is a supercharged F-150 with like 10 miles left on the range. I'm like, oh my God.
You're out of gas.
If I hit this, you know, open the butterflies, it's just going to pull. I have to pull it over because it's going to be done.
Yeah.
And I got my son with me. I don't know who these wackos are. So I end up going to this lunch spot. Well, actually, I end up looking in my console to access my gun, you know, in case anything went down. There's obviously a big disparity of force. I would have been like, please get back in your car and leave me the fuck alone. I got my son with me, or I'm going to fucking like hose you down. But I didn't have my car, or I didn't have my gun in that particular car, the one I have concealed carry permit for. And so went to the lunch spot, ran Jaden in. I like sprinted there and ran Jaden in, gave him to the hostess, and came outside to deal with it. And that right when these people were pulling in the parking lot to, you know, mess me up. So I was, one of the guys comes out, the driver comes out, and he's like, shit, I'm sorry, I've had a rough day. Your truck threw up a rock and it cracked my windshield. I just need your insurance. And, I was like, what the fuck? Like, you had me thinking I got to fucking deal with the big problem. I got my son with me.
Sure, right.
And he was very apologetic and ended up, shaking hands and giving him my insurance and stuff like that. But I was like, if I get out to deal with this, there's a chance I could get knocked out and he's in the car for X amount of time, or anything can happen. So after that, I was like, I am never going anywhere without the ability to keep him safe again.
Sure.
And I was good enough with a gun at the time. I was really good with a gun at the time. I think I was 30 years old at the time. And so I started carrying all of the time from there on out. And then I started training a lot more. Started, I think the first video I watched was Handgun Dynamics. So I started doing reps and, learning how to be able to solve a problem at a very high rate of speed as it relates to being able to draw and put a bunch of holes in something from 3, 5, 7, 15 yards away. And then I started training with a guy by the name of Barrett Fawbush. And he was like the fastest guy at the time as it relates to drawing and putting rounds on target. And then he had a few coins. He had a bronze coin for being able to put a round on target at 7 yards in under a second, and then a silver for 2 rounds in under a second from concealment. So you have to clear the garment. And then he had a gold coin for 3 rounds in under a second. And then he ended up having to make a black coin because there was 3 of us that were getting really close. We were getting 4 rounds in 104, and we were just strictly focusing on speed.
At 7 meters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And well, the four rounds in under a second we were doing from 5 meters.
Okay.
But I basically took like a year and a half, and focused strictly when I was hanging out with him, training with him a lot, and focusing strictly on balance of speed and accuracy and being as fast as I could. And I'm not quite as fast as I was at that time, but I've got a more well-rounded skill set.
Sure.
I could still put a round on target, 65 hundredths of a second from concealment, but I used to be able to do it in, I think, 59, with the Glock 19. I carry a lot bigger gun now, obviously after recent problems.
Yes.
So.
All right, so let's talk about that. You are during COVID, you had a shooting at In-N-Out.
Oh my God, let's not talk about it.
That's right. So this situation where you said it was during COVID. You were actually upset about something. You needed to get out of the house. You go to In-N-Out. Obviously, you can't eat inside of the In-N-Out at this point. So you and your girlfriend Tori are eating outside. The other thing that's ultimately ironic is that I've seen videos. Tori is a fantastic shooter. She's incredible.
Oh, she's not fantastic. She's the best in the fucking world. She just doesn't compete right now.
Yeah, she's. I saw some videos of her taking on targets in obstacle course. Absolutely unbelievable. And so from that situation, can you describe the events that happened to you that night? Because I have a bunch of ballistic questions for you from that whole thing.
I got all kinds of answers.
And nerd out as much as you want. So you take it from there. What
get
happened
really nerdy here in a minute. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you brought up Miami-Dade.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was writing a letter. I don't typically get in arguments with my dad. I've had like 3 arguments in the last 2 decades with my dad.
Yeah.
And he pissed me off because of some stuff that he said about my brother's birthday. It was his 3rd birthday.
Yeah.
I have like a 4-year-old brother at home. My dad still gets down even though he's a little bit older than me.
A little older, yeah.
So I wrote him like this letter. He still hasn't read the letter, but the letter, the friction was like, I appreciate it if you leave your gun in the truck for his birthday party. And this comes from, me and his wife have had a little bit of friction in the past. I don't have any more friction. I think she's fantastic. She makes him very happy, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But I think she was saying, BJ doesn't really need his gun at the birthday party. It's not like I'm like out like, hey, happy birthday, check out my fucking new blaster. And nobody knows. A lot of people, when I've had friends over and I'm getting dressed, getting ready to go wherever, and I have my holster on or my gun on. They're like, "Fuck, you really think you need that?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, you have never seen me without a fucking gun in the entire time we've been friends.
You didn't even know.
You didn't even
So why does it
fucking
bother
know,
you? Right?
yeah.
It's like Schrodinger's gun, right?
Yeah.
You didn't even know there was a gun.
Yeah. Right? So I was writing him this letter. Basically, this letter's like, you want me there. Like, there's no fucking way anything bad is going to ever fucking happen if I'm there.
For sure.
Because I'll fucking burn everybody down, you know? And I've been obsessive over that since that event with my son.
With your son, yeah.
Become really, really fucking good. Right now, I'm giving tips to a professional shooter that's been in the game for, you know, over a decade on how to be faster on first round on target. She's an amazing shooter. You know, so I was writing this long letter, like, you know, and I was fucking really pissed off. And I look at Tori, I'm like, fuck, the world's in mayhem, and I am fucking starving. Like, we don't have any food, you know, that I want to fuck with here. You know, and she's like, oh, In-N-Out. It's 2 weeks into the pandemic. She's like, In-N-Out's open for another 22 minutes. So I'm getting the fucking Porsche. I'm running 25 pounds of boost all the way to the drive-thru. We get to the drive-thru. We get our food. Everybody's eating outside at the time because if you go inside, it'll fucking kill the whole world. So there's like 15 cars, and I'm parked under, you know, the most tactically advantageous place that you can eat. It's well lit and you can see everything. What's funny is I didn't feel good. Like, I was starving. I ordered 2 burgers, and I was eating my burger, and I was just like, I had anxiety. Like, what the fuck is this weird shit? You know, like, so we finish, we finish eating, throw the trash away. And I'm like, I just want to be out of the house. Cause I had, my son, his mother, her husband moved in the house cause my dad's never been wrong about anything. And he told me the fucking sky was falling, you know, because of this COVID thing. So you'll probably have to blurb that out.
No,
right?
it's fine.
Okay. So we, you know, sat in the corner of the parking lot next to the structure. All the lights went off in the parking lot. People started leaving. We were at a lit area. And, you know, I was going through my phone, like guns, booty pick, you know, off-road, you know, going through your Instagram. Just wanted to get out of the house. And she's doing the same. She's standing right next to me at the time. And, you know, we're there for like 10 minutes. Last car leaves out of the parking lot.
Is this the In-N-Out over on the east side by the airport?
No, this is west side. This is 215 in Tropicana.
Okay, to way out there on the west side. Okay,
Yeah,
I've never been to that one. Okay, I've been to the other 2.
Don't go. Those burgers are to die for.
Oh God, here we go.
Dark humor.
There we go.
Dark humor. It's my coping mechanism.
Yes.
I get a pass to say shit like that. So, in any event, you know, I hear her whisper. My car is like, just for you know, backstory. You have all these parking spots right next to the structure. My car is parked right here because we're the only ones in the parking lot. So I'm just taking up like 2 spaces with my Porsche. And I hear her whisper, as soon as I put my phone back in my pocket, I hear her whisper, BJ, like, well, obviously something is making her uncomfortable.
Now, the 2 of you are still sitting at the same table outside?
No, we were standing.
Okay.
I was standing on the curb. She was standing next to me, but then she was like wandering around getting shit out of the car or whatever.
Okay.
And so then she's sitting in the car, like scrolling through IG or looking at emails or whatever. And I hear her whisper. I don't know she's in the car. I look over. I'm scanning the parking lot. She's not here. She's obviously in distress, trying to be quiet while getting my attention. I scan the parking lot. I see 2 guys, you know, 50 yards out. Don't know if they're coming or going. You know, don't know what they look like.
Are they on the same side of the street as you, coming through the parking lot?
They're coming like diagonal through the parking lot.
Okay.
So that's, you know, that's not her. Where the fuck is she? And then I look, and my car is parked like right here, and the door's open. I'm like, fuck, is she in the car? Because my windows are like super dark in my Porsche. And she stands up and walks around to the front bumper, and she's got like her you know, traps and delts and like everything activated, like she's stressed.
Yeah.
And the only communication I got from her that something was not supposed to be like that was like, she was looking at the problem, and then she looked at me, and then she looked over. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
So this is what I didn't understand from the original story. You are, let's say the guys are coming at you. This is 12 o'clock. Where's the car? The car is at like...
The car's like...
3?
Like probably 2:30.
Okay.
Not probably 2 o'clock, about about 8 yards away.
About 8 yards away. Is the back of the car facing them or the front? Why is she coming around to the front of the bumper? That's what I didn't understand.
Cover.
So the back, your back left end of the car is facing them.
My taillights are here.
Okay.
My bumper is right here. The front headlights are right there.
Okay.
So she went over to the front of the car, gave me nonverbal communication. I'm like, I look like just like a guy that's been through the ringer, all day. There's friction in the house between my son's mother and me, and I'm just trying to get everybody to get along while we get through this.
You mentioned that your other baby's mother is living with you, and her partner is also living with you. So the three of them are with you too in the same house, which is causing some level of stress.
Yeah, I like to keep it complicated. I'm happily married because I live with my girlfriend. I got a lot of stuff going on. I got 2 kids at least 2 kids from 2 different mothers.
Yeah.
So she gives me nonverbal communication. She looks at the problem. I'm like, what the fuck is she tripping over? And I look over, and there's 2 guys. One of them's got his hands in his pocket, the guy behind him. And they have like the hoodies like really tight around their face. The other guy is like this monster dude, like this 260-pound guy that's taller than me. And he's southpaw. He's got his left hand pointed at her, and he's speed walking like towards her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like, what is this, a fight? And I see the gun. And I was like, oh, they think that this is an assault.
Yeah.
Or robbery.
Robbery, yeah.
And they don't realize yet that this is a gunfight that they walked into.
Yeah.
So
they have no cover. They're at 50 feet, and could you identify the gun at this point?
That's a funny story. Like the compartmentalization of fear. Let's put this over here.
Yeah.
There's this problem that needs a bunch of holes in it, right? So I was able to. I don't remember having adrenal response for about 30 minutes. But when you have an event like that, you're able to receive more inputs of information, right? Like as opposed to receiving like 16 inputs of information like in a second. I went through 8 minutes of information in my brain.
Yeah, this is evolutionary adaptation. Adrenaline, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so one of the first things I thought of is the guy that shows up in his $300 at the range, that shows up in his $300 pants, his $400 range bag, and his $2,000 pistol, and how he performs at 7 yards. And this was between like 10 yards and 14 yards at the time.
Right.
I think it ended up being like 8 or 10 yards, something like that. And I obviously perform way better than that, and I'm very, very fast. So I was like, okay, this guy doesn't realize how much bigger I am and scarier I am than him.
Yeah.
And Tori thought the same thing, like, man, this poor guy doesn't realize that he walked into the wrong situation.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't have a choice because I'm not going to let her get blasted.
Yeah.
I like her quite a bit. She's a pretty girl.
She's worth shooting someone over.
She's worth shooting somebody over, right? And I wanted to stick around because I want to be at my son's graduation and my daughter's and stuff like that. So I was under the impression like this guy just wanted to like smash both of us, like murder both of us, marching up with a handgun. So back to imagining that person at the range that has, this badass gun and everything. I pictured that gun to be like a 1911, like a really badass 1911 with a, like an optic on it. Of course, it didn't have an optic on it, but it ended up being a 9mm pistol. That wasn't as nice, but I interpreted that as like, okay, that's the threat I'm dealing with. And so he turns to me and says, "What's good, homie?" Like threatening me, and then turns back around. So as it relates to receiving several different inputs of information under a stressful environment, I was like, okay, he's got to activate his rotational muscles, his delts, bicep, triceps, pecs, forearm, all this stuff in his body to reorient towards her.
And again, she's at 2 o'clock. He's left-handed, so now he's exposing the front of his torso towards you when he turns back towards her.
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. And I was like, okay, here are my options. I can try and create a counter ambush opportunity to solve the problem. I can wait for a counter ambush opportunity to be provided to me and solve the problem, or I can just go and I might get shot, but after I take care of the problem. She can drive me to the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, I might be all right. I might not be, but at least she'll be all right. So, and my funeral will be packed. They'll call me here. It'll be great.
For sure.
so
In and Out will cater the whole thing.
Yeah. In and Out will cater the whole
thing. For sure. Killer burgers.
Yeah. Killer burgers.
Yeah.
So, you know, he provided that opportunity. And environmental asset would be a trash can that my brain tricked me into thinking was going to cover all my vitals.
Yeah.
And it was made out of concrete. It ended up just being mesh.
It was a mesh trash can. Let me ask you, a metal, because I don't know about the penetration from a Beretta, right? So it was 970 feet per second. I forgot what the escape velocity is for a Beretta. But
well, it's for the ammunition. They have rounds that go like 850 to rounds that go 1600 feet per second.
Right. So for that, something like that, would it deform the bullet, the mesh trash can? Because I'm thinking of one of those ones that have like the little gaps in it, and it's got the trash can inside that's aluminum. Would that stop a round? Or I'm sure concrete would, but for like a 9mm round,
it would have turned it into a 380 caliber round that was out of breath.
Okay, that's what I figured.
It was slowed it down a lot.
Yeah. So it was some cover. That's when you said the mesh trash can, but it wasn't good cover.
It was the only thing I had available at the time. It was a yard and a half away.
Out of curiosity, the Porsche, what would that have done? Like the windows obviously wouldn't have stopped anything, but the rest of it.
Yeah, cars are funny. There's certain parts of cars where you can take like an AR and dump like 10 or 15 rounds into it, and it won't go through until you punch this hole in it. You know, like the A, B, and C pillar. And obviously it won't go through the engine block, but everything else, it goes through. In vehicle tactics class, they call cars like coffin, like get out of your fucking coffin and fight and solve the problem from outside the car, unless you can just drive through the threat, because cars don't run out of bullets, they run out of gas. You know? So, I
mean, also it's a Porsche, it's a sports car. It's not made to be heavy and dense.
Yeah, exactly. Even like a big heavy car, bullets goes right, like regular bullets just zip right through doors and windows and stuff. And statistically, you're more likely to get hit if you're inside the car than if you're firing from outside the car. It's very, very difficult to have a response inside of a car because of what glass does, to bullets. It
for sure
offsets the trajectory quite a bit. So he's this is my environmental asset, this trash can that, would have helped a little bit. It was a yard and a half away. I figured I might as well take advantage of it. It's going to cover my pelvic girdle and my femoral arteries to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And when he reoriented towards her, I was like, there's my counter ambush opportunity. The only one I'm ever going to get, because he's like 2 seconds away from gaining access to her and like, putting a bullet in her memories or beating the shit out of her, fucking doing whatever to try and gain access to me. So I step to the left. Pretty quickly, I'm too early on the first one, but I just wanted to get, the party started. For sure. Because he was already there. He fired at her the same time I fired at him. And then he fired at her again. And this guy was an athlete, And
just so we're clear, his first round at your girlfriend was not provoked. His intent was to come into fire. Just in case anyone had a question about some guy coming up and threatening or had an empty firearm or was trying to rob you, he came up and unprovoked fired a round at your girlfriend.
Yeah, he was ready to party. And no shade on this guy. The backstory of this is he was going through a rough time. And if it was like a regular fist fight and you can go have beers with the guy later, I would absolutely do that with this guy. Like, no shade, but he was going through a rough time in his life. And, he was on all of the stuff.
Toxicology report later, you were able to tell what he was on. Yeah.
There was all kinds of shit in there. There was, the gist of it is he was on some, I don't give a fuck what happens shit. Yeah. And I don't feel shit. So it was cocaine, it was Xanax, it was hydrocodone and oxycodone and marijuana, a little bit of marijuana, a little bit of beer. But from what I understand, he was having a very rough week, and that this day in particular, he tried to buy guns at the gun store that was right next to In-N-Out, and they threw like a rock. He threw like a rock through the windshield
because they wouldn't give him one.
Yeah, because he brought his. He was trying to do a straw purchase. Okay. With somebody else because he can't buy firearms. Okay. But it might sound silly to say, but he wasn't a bad guy. He was trying to get his life together and then went down the wrong path. Sure. Again, And that's what caused him to run into the wrong gunfight, you know.
Sure.
And very, very tough guy, you know. The guy that was there was his brother, and he was kind of bullied into bringing him along, you know. His brother was, you know, going to get beat up. He said, you know, Joey was the guy that I ended up getting in the engagement with, and his brother's name was Kevin. But, you know, he was afraid of his brother that night because he was like all messed up and stuff. And that's why he was part of that whole scenario. As soon as I cranked a round off, the thing that I talk about the most as it relates to the story, I cannot fucking believe how fast Kevin ran. He was the other guy that
the
got
brother.
bullied.
You said it was the fastest you've ever seen a person
Oh
run.
my God, I thought he was going to travel through time. He was so fast.
He's like
He was
Tachyon Beam,
so fast.
going backwards through time. That's hilarious.
Oh my God. And there's a story behind that as well. He was going to go to the NFL, but he had some situations,
Yeah.
you know, where he couldn't, you know, attend
School, yeah.
school. So, but I think we fired at the same time, and then he fired at her again when I fired at him the second time. He was 14 yards away was the closest engagement, and it ended up ending at 26 yards.
Okay.
And
26 feet. Or 26 yards. 26 yards.
Further than the backstop at the local shooting range.
So you were at 75, 75 feet. You hit him at 75 feet.
Yeah, I hit him in the face at 75 feet. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was, you know, I had the ability to compartmentalize adrenaline, compartmentalize fear, and be like, I need to solve this problem. I get scared later. You know, he shot at me. He shot at her twice, shot at me 6 times. And I had glass like all around me, like bullet holes all around me. So he was getting close. I was just trying to remedy the problem and keep him from continuing to put us both in danger. And then after the problem was solved, I was like, you know, fuck, talk to me. Tori talked to me. And she was like, all right, I'm walking sideways through the car, scanning the parking lot. I still got my dot on him. He's still got his gun on him. I know he's probably got at least 1 round left. And I remember Clint Smith as a defensive tactics.
So you thought he had a 1911. He had a Beretta, so he had 17 rounds. But you...
Well, he had like a Ruger LC9.
Okay.
I think it was a Ruger LC9. It was... Okay. I think it was 9 rounds.
Oh, so he had 9 rounds total. Got it.
And he consumed 8 rounds in the engagement. And so I got my dot on him, trying to make sure that he's not able to continue or not continuing to put us both in jeopardy. She's like, I'm at your 3, I'm at your 5, your 7. And she's starting to get stuff like out of the car. I'm like, we gotta go. At the time, I didn't know this. I thought she was in parasympathetic mode and getting like her backpack and some stuff like her makeup and shit. Like, you know, we have to fucking get the hell out of here. Turns out she had her blaster in her backpack, her gun in her backpack, and she wanted to be able to perform remedial action if there were other threats in the air. Because remember, we don't know what this is about. We don't know that this is some random thing. This could be an assignment, you know, by somebody. So I'm like, fuck this. I look at the car for like 2 seconds. And I'm like, it's got a flat tire. We'll drive on the flat tire. So I get in the car. I fire it. I never take my dot off him. I drive at 6-degree angle to the left and exit the parking lot.
Well, you hit him in the head. He's on the ground when you're leaving, right? But you don't know. You mentioned before you had an instructor said people you've already killed end up killing you because they're not dead yet.
Yeah, Clint Smith, one of the famous sayings that he says, a lot of people have been killed by people that they've killed that haven't died yet. Yeah. You know, like, so...
Well, there's one other thing before we get to that. What I thought was fascinating, probably the most fascinating discussion of this was the bullet velocity. A lot of people who play video games thinks that bullets travel at infinite speed and they're not affected by gravity.
Yeah.
You talked about the fact that you were not impressed with the velocity, the exit velocity of the bullet you were firing, and in the distance that he traveled, he could move like about 8 inches, which was enough for him to not get shot by that first round. And you were disappointed with the performance of the ammunition you were using. Can you talk about, get as nerdy as you want into
as
that?
As nerdy as you want. How much time we got?
Go as long as you want. Keep going.
I would have needed 1,180 feet per second to get some kind of desirable effect on target.
And you're firing a Glock at this point?
It was actually Taryn's gun that he built for me. It was a Combat Master, you know, really sexy thing with a dot on it and stuff. And
you're getting 900 feet per second? What do you get?
970.
970. Okay.
So he's able to, at his rate of speed, was 13.6 feet per second, which was 8.1 inches for the time of travel at the closest range of engagement, which was 42 thousandths of a second. So in order to have a desired effect, like you hunt birds, you're leading the bird.
Yeah.
You're not really thinking about that when you just got done having your hamburger and you're getting ready to go home.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that was that I was very calm, and that's not typically a target that I would miss.
Yeah.
You know, something of that size.
You're saying he's 260 pounds. He's taller than you.
Oh, he's a monster.
Yeah.
He was a monster. And, you know, that was, I shot 10 times. I only hit him twice. And you look at me on the range, I'm sure you've seen videos of me. That's not something that you would think that I would.
Which of the 10 hits him in the head? Do you know?
I think 7 hit him in the rib as he's like this.
Yeah.
And then he fucking screams like, "Fuck you, motherfucker." And then he gets both hands behind.
Yeah.
And starts cranking off the last 3 rounds. And I climbed, you know, into his chest. I hit him right here.
Okay.
Yeah, velocity was a big thing. It was it was a type of ammunition that the FBI uses. So I wasn't really into ballistics at the time, but after that, and I learned all this stuff, all the data from the investigators and stuff like that after it was concluded. And I started going down the rabbit hole of 9mm internal, external, and terminal ballistics. And I learned a lot. I could neither confirm or deny that I tested in my kitchen for 18 months after all my neighbors went to sleep. With gel blocks and different barriers and, you know, different handguns, different length barrels.
Gel blocks, these are those things that like the ballistics teams use to see how far a bullet will penetrate and like for human flesh.
Yeah.
Had it been a hollow point at 1,150 feet per second, would it have come out the other side, or like how would that have worked?
It probably would. It was a ballistic tipped, so it had like a neoprene insert into the hollow point.
Yeah.
Very well-known ammunition. I don't want to throw them under the bus
Yeah.
because they're used in several different agencies.
Yeah.
But you know, I found several different things that are much better than what I was using at the time.
And you also mentioned on several occasions that you had taken into consideration because, like, I was, you know, an MP5 is something you want to use to clear a room. Like an M21 is something you want to clear a room about 400 meters away.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
the velocity also matters because if you're firing in a mall or something like that, you don't want things that go through people. You want things that stop in people.
Well, to a certain extent, it matters on the tissue damage, the wound production that the projectile is able to create, whether it's going 970 feet per second or, you know, 2,100 feet per second. I've got rounds that go, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I'm just getting over getting sick. But I've got rounds that go 2,300 feet per second. Very, very light.
This is a rifle?
No, this is a handgun.
A handgun round that goes 20, because I'm thinking like an AK-47 is like 2,100 feet per second or something like that.
Yeah, 23 or something like that.
7.62 by 39 rounds. That's about how fast they go.
Yeah.
And so you have a pistol that fires at that rate.
Yes, and that particular round is not going through anybody.
Is that the charge that causes it to become, or is it the barrel length? What causes 2,100 feet per second from a pistol?
It's just like a car. It's funny, like a lot of this stuff transfers over to like vehicle dynamics and everything you know.
Yeah.
About that. The lighter the car, the bigger the motor, the faster it's going to accelerate, right? So a small, lighter projectile with a plus P powder charge is going to haul ass.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's 115 or like Liberty's 50 grain or a 68 grain. And now I like, you know, the lighter projectiles. I think the heaviest projectile on my gun is 115.
So the charge is the same, but the bullet is lighter.
Yeah, if it's all plus P, and I only run plus P anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, there's rounds like, you know, the stuff that I was running would absolutely penetrate through bicep, humerus, brachial, rib, lungs, and then come out the other side. A lot of penetration. You know, even though it's not a very high performing round, that particular projectile is not going to disturb as much tissue as a different projectile that's designed to travel at a high rate of speed and still dump all its energy in a shorter, you know, amount of tissue.
You talking about hollow tip where it would expand and then stop or slow down in the tissue. Got it.
I've studied, you know, different types of hollow tip or hollow points, different constructions of rounds, bonded bullets, copper bullets, bullets that will destroy themselves upon impact because of velocity.
Frangibles. I think that's what we used in the military when we were doing firing practice.
Yeah, I mess with frangibles a little bit. There's other projectiles that are not really designed to be frangible, but they destroy themselves because of the energy that the projectile's not. And those end up being like pretty good defensive handgun rounds. They create a lot of tissue damage. And then there's stuff like Force Got to UI has a round that mimics like a rifle round at close range, but they don't have a bunch of velocity, but it will tumble. It's not a hollow point. It's a solid copper. So I've basically everything that's exceeded 1,180 feet per second. I've done data collection, extensive data collection with a lot of different firearms with rounds that exceed that velocity, because that's the velocity that I would have needed to have a desirable effect
at that distance.
Yeah. And my whole goal is if that scenario was, hopefully that never happens again because that was awful, being able to shorten the amount of time that she was in danger.
Sure.
You know, that was like my primary objective in learning everything I could about 9mm ballistics.
It's just most people don't understand the idea of a bullet traveling too slow. Right. And so that's when you explain that, then it makes a lot more sense. And the other thing is how difficult it is to hit somebody with a pistol at that distance. Everyone thinks it's just point and shoot, and it's not. There's a bunch of variables that are involved. Rifles have longer rounds. The reason why it's called rifling is because it spins the bullet, which causes it just very much like throwing a football. And a lot of people don't understand these concepts, so they just think it's just all the same thing. And so that's why I wanted you to explain that, because the idea of the bullet not traveling fast enough, this is the first time I'd ever heard somebody, talk about it from a practical standpoint. So that was really, really interesting.
Yeah. People talk about like, oh, I carry a 45.
Yeah.
45 is much lower velocity.
Yeah.
And they asked me questions as it relates to that. I was like, okay, have you ever considered, even as big as sexy as bullet that is, like if you had to use that to preserve life, your own or somebody else's, have you ever considered the idea that that person might move out of the way before your bullet got there?
Yeah.
And it like blows their mind. They're like, what are you talking about? And then I have to explain a little bit. It's, a 90-minute conversation to somebody that doesn't know anything about this, which I'm more than happy to talk about on here. But yeah, there's a lot of misunderstandings as it relates to pistol rounds.
Okay, now you are in a car that has a flat tire. You get in the car with Tori, and then what happens there?
I get in the car and I reholster as soon as I turn right on I think it was Tropicana. And I'm like, all right, check for holes. Check for wet spots. You might not feel anything. So I check myself.
Yeah.
She checks herself, and we check each other. And then she's like, all right, that was gnarly.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're all right. And she's not getting that adrenal response yet. She's just happy to be in the car, and so am I.
Yeah.
And we're away from all that mayhem that we just encountered. That was 4.6 seconds, the most exciting moment, that anybody can have.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you never have to experience that, because it was awful, especially several months after that, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know what this is, and I'm trying to get home and make sure my son's all right, his mother's all right, her husband. Got to check on my dad. Who knows what this is? So I go home, hide the car in the garage.
Because you don't know if this is, like you said, an assignment.
Yeah, this is an assignment.
You want to have a different vehicle that you're in.
Yeah. So we go home. Ben Carey is, I'm sure you know him. He's a fantastic musician, but he's on the table. He's on the computer, and he's like, hey, how was food? And I was like, it didn't go very well. I ended up having to kill a guy in the parking lot, or shoot a guy in the parking lot. I said something of that nature. He's like, yeah, right. I'm like, no, I'm serious. This is like fucking DEFCON 5 or 1. I don't know which way it goes, 1. So I go, get in your room, get your rifle, your handgun, grab Nicole, go up to Jaden's room on the second story, right? One point of domination, you clear stairwells with bombs, with fucking handguns, so you have an advantage. Don't talk on the phone. Don't, say anything until I call you. I'm going to go make sure my dad's all right. So I go to, Tori gets her gear, her chest rig, her mags, her rifle. I get she brings my shit. I top off my handgun mag. I go to load the shit in her car. She had a Range Rover at the time. Yeah. And Dan Bilzerian calls me. He FaceTimes me. And, we're good friends, but we only talk like once every couple months. Yeah. We do some fun shit together from time to time. And he's like, hey, bro, I got the saw,
Was he eating oatmeal when he was talking to you?
He might have been eating something, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, I got the saw 240, working. Because I'm always making fun of him with that thing because it's always like, it has malfunctions.
Yeah.
He's like, I got it running really, really good. We're going outside. We're going out tomorrow with drones. And I got a bunch of pretty girls, you want to come outside or come to the range and we'll go have fun. And I'm like, okay, Dan, why are you calling me? And he's like, what? I just want to see, like, you're down to go to the range tomorrow.
You thought he knew something about this.
Yeah, well, I'm still like, it's starting to creep in.
For
like
sure.
that compartmentalization of adrenaline, trying to understand the planet, the world that I've now entered into.
Yeah.
This, like all this mayhem. So he goes, what? I just want to see if you want to go, shoot. I was like, okay. So I said, I had something happen about 8 minutes ago. I can't tell you what it is, but what I can tell you is I'm at home, grabbing my rifle, my chest rig, reloading my handgun magazine, and I'm going to my dad's to make sure he's all right. And I need to call David Chesnoff and the police department. And so he's like, oh, fuck, it's like that. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, all right. He was the first one in my dad's house.
Wow.
So I went to my dad's. He's like 300 yards down the road, right?
Okay.
In the bridges where we lived at the time. And I call my dad, said, I need to talk to you. And I go in the backyard. I go to the gate in the backyard. And then like more of that, compartmentalization of adrenaline starts, tipping over.
Yeah.
I can't figure out how to open the fucking gate.
Yeah.
And I got my chest rig, my rifle, like I'm ready to fucking rock and roll. Because I don't know what's going on. And I'm starting to get like, more alert. I wouldn't say scared, but more alert. You know what that's like.
Yeah,
right?
well, my father was killed by a drunk driver, and I remember afterwards being like, I just need to deal with this. It's just a problem. And then afterwards, not really like remembering how to start my car. I remember like these weird things started to happen where I was, and then like later on it hitting me. And I remember having a conversation with my squadron commander and being like, I had a flight 2 days afterwards. I was like, I'll still be there for the flight. And he's like, no, you're not. Your dad just died. You're not going to fly. And he was talking to me and he was making sense, but he wasn't making sense to me at the time. So it was one of those kind of situations. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So he's like, my dad comes up. I'm like, this fucking thing is locked.
Yeah.
Like, get me in this thing so I don't have to scale this fucking wall. He comes over. He's like, what are you doing? It's not even locked. He opens it. I'm like, oh my God, it's creeping in. So I put all she puts all my shit away, the chest rigs, the rifles and whatnot. And I'm like, so this happened at the parking lot, and the guy wasn't moving when I left, but he shot at Tori, shot at me. It was fucking crazy as mayhem. And he was like, wow, that's a crazy story. Are you all right? Do you have any holes in you? And I was like, no. He's like, well, good job. You saved her, you saved you. I've never been more proud of you. And it was like fucking awesome to hear that from your dad. I was like, damn, I should have gotten a gunfight a long time ago.
There we go.
So he's like, all right, well, now I told him I talked to Dan. Dan's on his way over. He's like, all right, I'll call Chesnoff. He's like, I'm like, Dan already called him, and he's going to bring Chesnoff over.
Yeah.
So we can figure everything out and coordinate with the police and fully disclose everything that happened.
Yeah.
And there's not much to, it's pretty cut and dry. Somebody starts shooting at you, and you defend yourself.
And furthermore, the brother also corroborated your story later on.
Yeah, he had my back. Like, they got him, like, he was really stressed out about this. He didn't want to get in trouble. And he corroborated the story. He told him exactly what happened, like 2 days later. And so he's like, now we have to figure this out, because my dad was, now we got to figure this out. You are now in a homicide investigation.
Sure.
And then I was like, fuck. My whole world. I'm going to lose all my marketing partners. I'm going to be like all this mayhem of people saying shit and starting stories and stuff like that. I didn't really have any post-traumatic stress from having to engage in this defensive act because preserving her, preserving myself.
There's no part of you that questioned that what you did was right or wrong. You knew that it was right. He fired at your girlfriend unprovoked. So like later on, it's like, this wasn't, it's almost like if you've ever had to put an animal down and you don't know when to do it. And then the animal goes, like I had an animal go into a seizure and I was like, this is the time.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I don't feel bad about it because I know this is the time. In your situation, you're deciding whether or not to put this guy down. There's no later on any dissension, like, oh, maybe we could have stopped this situation. He fired at your girlfriend. You don't have any guilt afterwards. There's no survivor's remorse or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't have any of that. And then looking at the situation as it relates to how well I perform with a handgun, like in my mind, this guy had, an accident of trying to have like this type of engagement with something that was really, really fucking fast.
He's like a 43 on Madden and you're 99 overall.
Yeah,
but he doesn't know.
Yeah,
he doesn't know.
He doesn't know. And it's unfortunate. I wish we would have left the parking lot like 3 minutes earlier. So I do have some.
Or fired at him, missed, and then he goes off in his direction. And you go off in yours. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a way better scenario.
Yeah,
way better scenario. But I've been having to deal with like all this speculation, people starting rumors about me. That was the thing that bothered me the most.
Course.
Like there was a rumor that like, and I've never fucking done cocaine. I've drank. I've can neither confirm or deny. I've had like marijuana gummies and stuff like that. But I've never done. No shade on anybody that recreationally likes to party. But there was a rumor going around that I was meeting up with my cocaine dealer and I murdered the cocaine dealer. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I fucking love cookies and cream milkshakes.
Yeah.
Love cookies and cream milkshakes.
And that's where they got it in and out.
From well, no, I didn't get that there. But like, I'll get it at like Baskin Robbins.
Sure.
In all the years that I've gone to Baskin Robbins, I've never fucking killed anybody at Baskin Robbins because I love the fucking milkshakes.
Got a perfect record there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's a unique event. I've like tried to make the best out of it. I was just going to tuck it in.
Yeah.
Not talk about it, but it just went viral as it relates to the news cycles and shit like that. And I realized that if I could talk about it, I could help other people.
For sure.
And that was my objective of being transparent as it relates to what I learned and how I've gotten so many text messages and so many direct messages and emails and stuff like, thanks to you sharing your story, my wife has finally allowed me to buy a shotgun for home defense, or a rifle for home defense, or get my concealed carry license. My wife got her concealed carry license. And, I got like 30,000 or 40,000 emails and direct messages and a few thousand texts, that particular month saying, thanks for sharing your story. So that's the reason why I did it.
One of the problems I think that probably would have happened, what I would have guessed that would have happened, is that a lot of people who are, against guns, right, for more prohibition of firearms, especially pistols, your story actually works very, very much against their narrative, right? You were able to protect someone. People say that the solution to gun crime is legal gun ownership, right? And you talked about this in your interview with Black Rifle Coffee. With people who own 2 or more guns, the likelihood of them committing a crime is next to 0.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's legal gun ownership. And so what happens is when they can come up with these narratives, your narrative, it's not an example or whatever. It's direct, unequivocal proof that like knowing how to fire a weapon and understanding what you're doing is a way to keep people safe and not to cause more problems. And so I think that's one of the reasons, and I would imagine that's where you got some of the hate from, is because they need to continue to justify their narrative even though you protected your loved one with a firearm.
Yeah, 100%. And what smashes their narrative is that like I'm a reasonably high profile person. Like I consider myself like a D-list celebrity.
Sure.
I'm not like Brad Pitt or anything like that. I'm just a truck driver that races, trucks. So I'm a very high profile person in that particular world, and a moderately high profile person in the motorsports world. So it's not like the media can like tuck this in. It was like all over the place. And most of those situations where somebody has lawfully defended themselves or their family with a handgun or any gun for that matter, that gets tucked in. And all they talk about is, in the media is all the stuff that happens, with people shooting up, malls and schools from time to time, which is awful. But the only way to combat that is to have somebody there that's really fucking dangerous. That's a good person that has a handgun. Just like the one in the mall, like I think it was 8 or 9 months ago. That guy would have wiped out so many people. And there was a kid there that had, he was 21 years old. He had his concealed carry license. He was pretty good with a handgun. And he was able to not have that happen by engaging that threat, which saved a lot of lives.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's tough when you have a narrative that runs up against hard facts, and then it becomes difficult. I grew up in Texas, and I lived in neighborhoods and had friends who lived in neighborhoods with extremely high gun ownership, and there was no crime. There were these banks in Texas. You don't rob the banks because grandma pulls out a 38 on you because she's carrying two, and it's just one of these situations where understanding that and then seeing what's going on in Chicago, what essentially happened in London, and what happened in other cities that have handgun bans where crime goes up. And it's something that makes so much sense to me growing up in Texas.
Oh my God.
That doesn't seem to make sense. It's like economists and sociologists don't seem to grasp this concept of the way to stop violence is legal gun ownership. So I think that's one of the issues, and that's one of the reasons why you probably got a lot of pushback for your experience.
Yeah, and it's so simple. Like if you really simplified it, you know, like imagine how many lions would fuck with gazelles if gazelles were extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen. Like, you know, that wouldn't happen if the predator, if the juice has got to be worth the squeeze.
For sure.
You know, and if you're in a gun-free zone and you know nobody there is dangerous, that's where, you know, these very sick individuals will go to cause a substantial amount of harm because they know the likelihood of them getting shot and killed is very, very low.
So Dan Bilzerian comes over to your father's house that night. Did you help him build that truck that he's got now, the one that he's out there and he races?
It's not really a race truck, but I had a little bit of input on, you know, in the beginning when I kind of dragged him into that world. I remember he was looking at my buddy's Prerunner and he wanted me to take him for a ride in it and stuff. But the nice part about Dan, he's actually not just, you know, some wealthy guy that likes fast cars and drives like shit. You know, he can fucking drive. He's like a really good driver. I mean, I know he's made some mistakes, but you know, as it relates to, like, I had to tow him back over a couple weeks ago.
So this is the next thing I was going to ask you. So Dan's truck is upside down. He flips it, or what happened?
Yeah, it's $1 million piece of equipment.
Yeah. He showed it to me when it was first done. It's pretty incredible. Yeah. He's got a garage full of like incredible cars.
Yeah.
Right next to his katana blade. You've seen the katana blade?
Yeah.
I touched that thing. That is a real, like, it balances. That thing would cut through somebody in 2 seconds.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
No, his Prerunner is way nicer than mine. It is probably the nicest Prerunner I've ever seen.
But humans can like sit in it comfortably also.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the difference. It's not like a race truck. That's the difference. Yeah.
And still be protected. It's a race truck with a street truck wrapped around it.
Got it.
And it's got a big motor in it, like a way bigger motor than the motor that I usually run in my Prerunner. But he doesn't have to take it down to Mexico and run garbage fuel. You know, he could put good fuel in it, stuff that's like,
he doesn't have to take it apart all the time also.
Prerunners you typically don't.
Yeah.
Because they're operated, you know, with them 80%. Most of the time they're run. Occasionally you'll stretch them out and you'll be able to go really fast in them. But race trucks are operating at almost maximum capacity the entire time. So they have, you know, they're worn down at a higher rate than Prerunners. Prerunners, you typically only have to prep like once a year and go through them. Where, you know, my race motor, I get like 1,200 miles out of my race motor. Yeah. Because it's, you know, 30-to-1 compression ratio and runs on race gas. And we got all this power, you know, it's getting out of it. So, and I run it, you know, on the chip at 7,500 RPM, trying to reach an end goal. Where a Prerunner, you're not doing that, you know, not very much. And you don't have to go that fast. And like Dan's Prerunner, you don't have to go that fast at all to scare the fucking shit.
And he has plenty of videos of those. Where girls in bikinis in the back of the car getting the shit scared out of him while he's making these turns. Yeah. And it looks pretty awesome. How do you tow him over? You just put a tow latch on there and just roll it over, or did you have some kind of equipment? What happened?
Yeah, he called me. He says, "Hey, you know, he's first class guy.
Of course,
you know, I fucking love Dan. He's always been there. He's, you know, anytime he calls, he needs help, I fucking help him out like immediately. So, and I've had to do that several times, but this particular time, you know, I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Hey, you know, I'm on the door over here. Can you come get me?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll be right there." I was there in 6 minutes. I just sat down to eat, you know, and I'm like, fuck, you know, always got his back. So I show up, it's right next to his house.
Yeah.
You know, so by the way, this is all fictional, that this didn't actually happen.
Yes, this is for
story time.
entertainment use only.
Entertainment use only.
A fictional character named Dan.
So, yeah, they had like some dental floss like tied up to the fucking trailing arm. I was like, that's not going to work. Like, get that fucking shit off of there. And there's a specific way, you know, like I was saying before, I'm a professional at unfucking certain situations and unfucking myself and making the best out of a very bad situation. So like with this is $1 million truck. I want to get it back on all four wheels without ripping another fender off or ripping the door off or something. So I got to snatch it over with a certain method without causing more damage, because this truck is sexy.
It's incredible.
It is badass truck. Have you ever been in it? In the desert?
No, but I've seen it. I saw it. He showed it to me.
You got it. You got to go. It's really well handling truck.
Yeah,
and big motor too, which I like in pre-runners. So yeah, I got it snatched over. I got it yanked over. You know, of course, I don't save anybody without throwing shade a little bit and making jokes. You know, so I had to joke around with them a little bit, you know, for a couple minutes, and then I got it snatched over and brought it home.
That's amazing.
So.
Awesome. One thing, a question here from Jamie Villamore.
Ooh, Jamie, I love her.
Jamie asks, someone breaks into Jamie Villamore's home and she calls you. Do you show up or is she on her own?
I don't think I would need to show up. Jamie gets down.
Jamie is coming to a gun near you, man.
Yeah, Jamie gets down. She could shoot.
Have you ever seen, really good. I interview her every time she pulls out a switchblade. Or like one of those, every time. She goes, and I have a new knife. Whoosh, every time. She's like sitting in this sexy dress. I'm in a suit. We're on some red carpet. And she's like, what are you carrying today? And she's like, this. And then several times we've interviewed her and she just pulls out pistols on the table right here. It's like, so what kind of ammunition you use? I don't really know. And she goes like this, and she goes, and the bullet just comes out, and she lays it. Oh yeah, I'm using this right here. I was like, yo, what is happening right now, man? This is crazy. Yeah, Jamie's nuts. She said she also was in your Porsche. She said that was the fastest she has ever driven in a street legal car, but she felt totally safe driving in there with you.
Yeah, professional drivers, we don't crash like regular cars.
Yeah.
You know, we've been in so many bad situations. We tend to, you know, put a lot, you know, like have a lot left on the table when we're fucking around with hot rods that make 1,000 horsepower. Street cars are vastly different than racing situations, you know. So, yeah, I don't remember taking Jamie for a ride. What I remember that, but I don't remember what I did. I don't know if we did 200 miles an hour or something like that, or drifting into corners, which is hard in a Turbo S because it's all-wheel drive, so it takes a significant amount of commitment, you know. So, but yeah, I like taking people for rides, and that it's a lot of fun.
Hey man, thank you so much. This is one of the best interviews I've ever done.
Thank you.
There were really so many questions when I listened to you talk about this before, and it was really, really great for you to expound on that. Where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at BJ Baldwin, Twitter at BJ Baldwin 97. Facebook is Ballistic BJ Baldwin. It was like a stage name I made up like 15 years ago that I thought was nerdy, but it actually ended up sticking. But those are my social media platforms. I have a YouTube too that's at BJ Baldwin 97, I'm pretty sure.
Love it. Awesome, man. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was really great. BJ, you know, when we connected on social media, I was really surprised. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks to all the people who helped out with this. I actually did a lot of research. I talked to a bunch of people about this, so this was terrific. Guys, stay tuned. Make sure you like, subscribe. Make sure you share this if you enjoy it. I know a lot of you are watching like Instagram Reels and TikToks or whatever. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube so you guys can check out more stuff that we're doing. Access Vegas is coming out on February 2nd. We have the MOA live streams and several things like that. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you all next week.